That's a weird Les Paul. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. This is a bit of an up-and-coming tale. On Reverb one day, I saw a listing exactly like this. A ridiculous $125,000 price tag on some weird acoustic model with a pickup thrown in it. So naturally, I had to click on this because A, you don't see the Les Paul Jumbo too often. This is the lesser talked about version of the low impedance series guitars, which were Les Paul the man himself's favorite, going from the Les Paul Recording to the original Les Paul Personal with mic jack included, or even the Les Paul Professional. The Les Paul Jumbo takes the same low impedance electronics, just throws it on a jumbo acoustic. But what's interesting is it technically is an official Les Paul model, and the font makes it look like the Les Paul Gumbo. Now, usually these will show up in between 2,000 to 6,000. Sometimes people ask as much as 10 grand. So when I saw 125,000 on one of these things, it's like, yeah, okay, this guy's a little bit crazy. But the title was just a little bit weird, like they didn't know the exact date. So I gave them the benefit of the doubt and started to flip through these photos and, oh, all right, maybe we actually have a sane seller here after all. This is a multi-listing for 10 different guitars, and my attention was caught by two of them, this guy right here and this one. However, before we dig into all these, there's a new update to the story. Currently, the Reverb listing is down. Many a times, this is what a listing will look like if it got mass reported. Like, it's been taken down because people thought someone was playing a funny $125K for some acoustic guitar. Because to be fair, that's exactly what the listing looked like. But I've had a few viewers in the Connecticut area reach out to me that, hey, somebody has this car listed on Facebook Marketplace. My friends, there's not 10 Les Pauls for sale here, there's 11. That's right, the car is also Les Paul's old vehicle. And many of these guitars have been signed by Les Paul, so this must have been one of his personal friends that also enjoyed these guitars. And hey, look, it even has the mic. So that was quite shocking to me to realize if you can buy it in person, you can drive home in Les Paul's car for the same price as the Reverb listing ad. So let's go ahead and dive in. We've already talked about the Les Paul Jumbo. They're fairly rare. However, the desirability factor, that part's debatable. Looks like we might have a crack in the top, but hopefully one day we can review one. This is the one that interested me the most because, whoa, we've seen something like this before. This was just recently auctioned off as a Les Paul recording prototype, which is apparently in the Met now, which I'm glad they're describing it properly this time. It sold for nearly $200,000, initially advertised as like a 6970, an actual Les Paul recording model prototype, rather than what it actually was, which is an 80s version of it. I don't know if they were thinking about bringing it back or if Les just wanted something with the cool new features that they had, like the flip-out winding tuners and a cool flame maple top without all the plastic on the top. Looks like this one even had a Bigsby, his like pulverizer type thing. Had his famous microphone output jack on the side. But what was really cool about this one is it actually is marked an original Gibson prototype, stamped serial number 1. So naturally, I can't afford that price, nor would I want to spend that on that. So with an average cost of about 10 grand per guitar, this one was quite interesting. So I did reach out to the seller. This is not legit. Like, apparently it's been cobbled together from other parts. It's just a made-over kind of Les Paul standard type thing. I don't have the full history. Feel free to reach out to the seller if you're actually interested. But what a really cool tribute to that guitar. Next, this Les Paul recording was very intriguing because does anybody else see the Antigua finish here? That's a finish that Fender used that gives you this kind of rustic cowboy scene. And during this last review of the reissue of it, it's been brought to my attention that there's a country called Antigua that's spelled the exact same way, and unfortunately that's made me lose my love for this model because Antigua was such a weird word. Having to pronounce it Antigua now, it's just not as cool. I'm sad. I think I'll just continue to pronounce it incorrectly because I've never seen an Antigua Gibson before. The seller calls it a Silverburst though. But I've got to say, that finish on a Les Paul recording doesn't look half bad. But apparently that one was used in an Iridium ad for the nightclub, according to the seller. So I'm not exactly sure what the history is on that outside of it, whether that one was also a project or if it actually left the factory with that finish. Because normally the recording model would look something like this. So this is a more early 70s one. However, you know what? That one's been additionally modified as well. Some tinkering has been going on here. Somebody threw a Bigsby on it that's gold. Looks like capped off your original stop bar studs. Looks like it needs a good deep cleaning and restringing. I can't really say much more about that one. But this was cool. A Les Paul Personal. I'll let you guys in on a secret. I did buy one of these like 2 years ago, but I don't have a proper era correct gooseneck mic, and I'm not gonna make that video until I have one. So if anyone has one laying around, please let me know. But this one's really sweet. It's got a whole bunch of finish checking. It has this really big inscription on it by Les himself. To his buddy, you've got your gold hardware. It's basically the Les Paul custom version of it. And it's the only production level Gibson that had the microphone XLR out. The other models didn't incorporate it. So it's a really cool model within Gibson's history, even though pretty much all of these models are not necessarily highly prized or desirable to collectors or players. But if you're looking for really pure clean tones, these are nice guitars. It's just the first 2 iterations before the recording are insanely heavy. But next up here, it looks like we have some sort of a late 90s Les Paul classic. I guess if we zoom in here, yes, we can confirm the classic status. But we've got a Les Paul custom truss rod cover on it. Looks like replaced Schaller style tuners. Some sort of blade pickups in here. But you don't see him sign his full name like that very often. And somebody's got a knob on here, so you know you've got some good stuff hidden in there. Then some sort of maybe an on-off mini toggle. Next up, this is the Les Paul Professional. Now it's kind of funny, I actually sold a Professional to this guy before. I like this feature Reverb has. It shows if somebody's bought from you before, if you or somebody else messages them, and so sure enough, 9 years ago I sold him this 73. This was a really cool guitar. I know what you're thinking. Really, Trogly? You sold it for $1,000? Trust me, guys, that was the market at that particular point in time. Somebody had gutted all the low impedance electronics out of it, put double humbuckers in it, slanted in these new pickup covers, really simplified everything here. I went up to the Fort Wayne area. I think we met at a local Menards or something in their parking lot. And it was just a nice older couple that were together. They sold me this along with an amp and like their microphones. And they told us some pretty cool stories of how they would go out and gig together. It was back when Craigslist was heavily used. And I think I picked up the whole set for like $800. So it wasn't like a big moneymaker thing, but it was a great way to experience these guitars. If you wonder how I can just sit here and make content every single day, it's because I get these guitars and I learn from them, and then I want to share my passion. But this one had like a big wear area here. They are indeed pancake bodies. And then looking at this photo again, I was like, oh, did I buy stolen goods? No. It used to be popular to engrave your social security number on a guitar, but now with the whole digital age thing, that's not such a good thing to do anymore. So somebody carved out, but we still had our serial number there. So everything was kosher in that respect. So outside of being, you know, kind of a modernized guitar without any of the good stuff that you normally associate with these, it was pretty solid. The reason I bring up that story is I was curious if one of these guitars might have been that one just restored. Because how cool would that have been if somebody stripped the finish down on it, had Les actually sign it? But then I started to think about the timelines there. 2024 minus 9 years. Nope, Les was unfortunately not with us at that point. So I don't believe my old guitar was part of any of this. I just thought it was kind of cool how there is a history behind this guy of buying these guitars and having fun with them. But how cool is that to have Les's signature right there in the bare space of a Professional? But now this Les Paul recording, you might think, let's just skip over it. We already talked about recordings. I do believe this is the later version with a maple top. It's kind of hard to tell because towards the back half, the knobs go in a line. So you know what? When we come back here, that is the later 70s control that was put in there. But oh, I see something new now. There's like some signature or something there by Les Paul and something else. Maybe you guys can read it. I can't because this is what I get to see when I record. But that one was also signed by Les. Looks like it says 99, like 1999 maybe. But this is fun. Les signing a cheap knockoff of his own guitar, a Sakai. Honestly, these knockoffs are very fascinating. And I could see why Les would like get a chuckle out of looking at some of these. Just to see like how far off or maybe how good they potentially were. I mean, it looks like they got the multiply binding and some of the colorations right. It doesn't look half bad, but here's the thing with these. They might look good, but the playability, not always the case. I mean, my goodness, look, this is a 0 fret guitar. That wasn't necessarily associated with quality back then. And then, hey, they even have one of the Les Paul Triumph basses, which appears to have been pretty heavily used. And on top of that, what a cool photo shoot. Everything in this photo is a Les Paul. The car, the acoustic, the weird looking ones, the knockoffs, and the bass. Everything shared the name. So if you're serious in any of this stuff, it's listed in the Sherman, Connecticut area on Facebook. You could probably look them up on Reverb too. I'm sure that listing will eventually get reinstated. Under $25,000 might seem like a lot, but hey, it's Les Paul's 2003 Toyota we're talking about here. 70,000 miles, automatic transmission, exterior color silver, interior is gray. Your gas engine, steam miles per gallon, 21 miles on the highway, 18 mpg combined. 2 owners, Les Paul, and this guy has a clean title with no crashes, and is paid off. They cause gas, not responsible for uncontrollable guitar buying sprees, so they keep the variety in a single cutaway shape. Tax time extra. Please drink responsibly. May cause cancer and liver failure. Take care.